California just passed the most controversial AI regulation in US history, and the tech industry is split right down the middle. While major players like OpenAI and Meta are fighting tooth and nail, one company is standing alone saying, "We actually need this." Meanwhile, OpenDoor CEO just sent a memo that has the entire business world either laughing, cringing, or thinking this is the best thing since sliced bread, demanding that every employee become an AI native or else.
And Walmart just dropped a statement about the future of work that nobody saw coming. The question isn't whether AI is changing everything, it's whether companies are using AI as a legitimate strategy or just the latest excuse for bad business decisions. So today we're going to break down some major stories that reveal what's really happening in the AI workplace and overall in a bunch of business.
Great. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Welcome to our podcast. I go by Meet McKay on YouTube. This is my father's startup hack. We take our kitchen table conversations where we talk about business, finance, tech, AI, and we bundle it all up into a podcast where this is episode 12 now. So we've been rolling for quite some time. We really enjoy it. I don't think we care too much about the viewers, but we just like to do it for fun, and we learn from each other. And I think that people get value out of this. So we're going to go ahead. There's a handful of stories that we want to cover today. The first one being that California passes SB 53, the AI safety bill that everyone is fighting about. So basically, Gavin Newsom just signed in this law, making California the first state with a comprehensive AI safety regulation. The bill requires AI companies to test models for catastrophic risks before deployment. Think like a large-scale cyber attack, critical infrastructure failures, or mass casualty events. So, start back. To me, this seems obviously I dislike Newsom. I think he's done a very poor job of running California. But does this seem off the rails to you to have some sort of regulation around this?
As with pretty much everything that California is going to do, there's absolutely no way they can enforce this. That's the biggest reason why these bills are a joke, is because there's literally millions of open source models. How are you going to stop Susie from sitting down at her kitchen table and starting to use these and build on top of these open source models? There's absolutely no way to police this. It's a lot of noise. Newsom's trying to say he made progress with AI, but really it's a total joke. I mean, there's no way they can enforce anything that's inside of the bill. There's no way. This really is just basically a way for them to come and litigate against any AI company that they decide they want to.
Is it going to slow down fast deployments? Like, is it going to hinder the AI industry, or do you think that this is going to help?
It literally doesn't make sense. I'm not, I'll be curious to see what the AI companies do with it, because OpenAI has been opposed to any legislation, and they're definitely the largest in the game, right? But as we talked about before, Anthropic is one of the ones that lined up and sided with it. And I don't know if they're just doing it to grab press, because they just had their latest model release that we're going to talk about. So they're just trying to grab, the news cycle. Because obviously this is going to catch a lot of news cycles, but there's nothing in this bill that actually makes any legitimate sense.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because OpenAI actually their new Sora platform, this broke like 15 hours ago, that they're going to release this new version of Sora, which I'm sure image generation is going to continue to improve. Uh, that they're going to use copyright material unless the copyright holder opts out of having their work appear. So they're like, we know we're using copyrighted material, but if you don't want us to use it, you have to opt out. We're going to assume you're going to want to opt in.
So
So
so think you're Disney. You're gonna have to go through and literally list out every one of your characters, every one of your copyright titles. You're gonna have to go through and list every single one of them.
So you think OpenAI is just gonna pay whatever California sues them for and just keep going?
I have no idea, because like even this is totally counter to what Newsom talks about, because this could actually generate things, right? And so it's generating new content that actually would be completely opposed to what they wrote into SB 53, right? So it's like it literally doesn't even make sense, because what if I say, well, hey AI, go ahead and generate me a new model?
Yeah.
That sounds unrealistic, but and it is currently unrealistic. But like in theory, it could actually generate you a new model, which then would then be breaking even on itself. There's literally no logic to it.
So it looks like a similar bill has passed in New York as well. Do you think that the states should be the ones handling AI regulation? It should be a state by state basis. And if so, what's like an AI regulation framework that, as somebody that is neck deep in tech, usually tech is usually the anti regulation, but do you think there is any room for state regulation in software like this?
I don't think there is. I mean, part of the problem is that nothing in software is state by state. I don't deploy software by state, right? And
Yeah.
so does that mean if my server's in California that I'm bound by this? Does it mean if the businesses I work with are bound by this? Does it mean if my users who use it are in, like, I mean, what does this mean and what's their rule, So the whole point of a state legislation is because anytime something could not, like could be done in a particular state and not go cross state, but clearly any software is going to be going cross state. So that doesn't make an ounce of sense. Like my company is virtual. And so it's like, how in the world are you going to say that that's actually enforceable on either of those cases? And, Ronald Reagan said, the scariest words in the English language are "we're the government, we're here to help." Right. And like, it's totally true. Think of one thing the government's done that has made it better.
Got it. Yeah, I think that it's going to be really hard to enforce. I think that's going to be the more difficult thing. But you do have one CEO that is in favor of this, and this is just a pattern of his. So I don't think he wants to break that trend. But he's mega pro safety, mega pro regulation. You might be able to share a little more insight on that. But Anthropic announced an official endorsement of this California bill. Do you think this is just him wanting to continue to follow this pattern of, hey, we're pro safety, we're pro everything? Or do you think there's an ulterior motive?
Well, there is definitely an ulterior motive, and partly you're right that it's partly what you're saying, but there is also the ulterior motive. See, Anthropic CEO has always been the one to do scare tactics to say AI is going to take over the world. So this is kind of more along that premise that, oh, the machines are going to take over. We have to have safety. Nothing in this bill is actually going to protect you.
Yeah. So it says that this bill specifically focuses on limiting AI models from contributing to catastrophic risks, which the bill defines as death of at least 50 people or more than $1 billion.
So you're good as long as you kill only 49.
Yeah, jeez. Yeah, this seems. Yeah, I don't really know. They're wanting them to put tools in place, like frameworks, but you're gonna have to have the government's gonna have to have people that understand these tools to be able to go in and make sure they're doing what they need. And if private companies can barely pay enough people to understand what's going on inside of AI right now, it's gonna be entertaining to watch the government attempt to.
Well, and that's what's so funny is right now there's a massive skilling out there, under talent. There's very little talent that truly understands how AI work. It's a massive. That's the reason why we see these. We've talked on this before about the grab between different companies for AI talent. And so if you think the government's going to retain any AI talent, that's a joke. So you've got these politicians who are trying to regulate this really complex thing. So let's think of your Hugging Faces. Okay, so let's take a look at Hugging Faces for a minute and figure out, how do you manage this? Hugging Faces has a platform that you can literally just go pick out of a list and say, hey, I want to run this. Now, again, like somebody's running this, right? And you go to Hugging Faces and it has millions of it. But not only that, Hugging Faces actually has the servers now to run them for you. And you can start to use, just like you use ChatGPT, on their website. And so it allows you to then pick out of this. So who's at fault? The person who uploaded the model, Hugging Faces, the company that then uses it, the user that then uses it. Like, where's this regulation? So, I mean, that's the reason why, especially at state level, that makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah. It'll be entertaining to see. This is just one more of those things that we're either trying to play catch up to, or we're trying to get ahead of a problem that's just not going to be able to be managed correctly.
The biggest thing I always ask about every legislation is, if you're going to write some legislation, there has to be some teeth to it. There has to be some, who's going to police it, right? There has to be, that question has to be answered.
Yeah.
And that's when you can tell there's a pointless bill, is when there's no way that they can say, this is what happens if you defy it.
Yep. No, I agree with you. A lot of this regulation seems kind of silly. Sweet. All right, let's jump into, speaking of Anthropic, let's go ahead and jump into our next segment here. So Anthropic just released their new model, Claude Sonnet 4.5. And people are raving about this, saying it's incredible. It's able to code for 30 minutes without stopping, completely automated. It doesn't stop until the task is complete. Is the underlying problem of AI vibe code still there, or do you think that they've largely solved this?
So Anthropic is definitely like, wears the coding crown. Everybody who uses any kind of coding agent knows that Anthropic's the best. And yet recently Anthropic has really distanced itself from a lot of developers with its billing tactics, right? And so, as we've predicted, as part of the bubble burst, right, and then we won't go into that topic a ton, but as part of that, you're going to see companies really starting to tighten the belt financially. And Anthropic definitely has been one of these. And they've driven a lot of coders away because even people who are paying their $200 a month, which is a big bill, like, I mean, that used to be a car payment level, right? And so people paying $200 a month are getting capped after a couple of days worth of usage. And if you don't think this kind of a thing where you're saying, hey, kick it off, let it run, let it chew up a ton of tokens, and then like you're gonna hit your limit quick. Like you use this, and so that's the first thing I jump to. The second part is your question that you asked is, does this solve a vibe coding problem? Absolutely not. What you're going to end up with is the recent report we saw, with AI slop, right, or work slop, was coined from recent MIT and Stanford study, is that 90% of everything that's generated by AI is considered slop, SLOP, right? And so it's a real legitimate thing. So basically, this can go off and work for 30 minutes and generate you something that might be useful.
Yeah. It just it almost makes it seem like it's worse. Now you have 30 hours of code for a manager to review. So if you have a junior dev that thinks he's the greatest thing and he lets it run for 30 hours, now you have to instead of using AI as like an assistant for a junior developer and the senior dev reviewing code that's like, oh, hey, a few hours at a time. Now you had somebody that has spat out 11,000 lines of code that needs to be reviewed. So it actually probably slows things down on a production level.
Yeah, there's been over a dozen studies that's come out in the last 6 months showing that this type of behavior actually causes more work because you can't put this code into production without being reviewed. There's just no way. Like it absolutely has to be reviewed. And if you go back to the previous discussion about SB 53, then it would have to be reviewed because you can't deploy something that doesn't have a human touch to it. Yeah. So it's like they're going deeper and deeper. And really all I see this is, no, again, I probably think 4.5 is probably some percentage points better than 4.1. And so coders will be excited about this. But at the same time, like the rest of this will can code for you for 30 hours. Like that's not going to do anybody any good. Coding is probably about 20 to 40% of a developer's job.
Got it. What do you think that would cost it just to let it run for 30 hours?
I have no idea. I don't know because I haven't ever done it because I don't really want to rack up a huge Anthropic bill just to be testing it. Yeah. I don't quite have enough viewers on YouTube to pay for that yet.
Hey, so that's just a reminder. If you haven't yet, subscribe to Starter Pack. We want to do the 30-hour Anthropic test so we can know.
Exactly.
Cool. Do you have anything else or any other insights with this new Anthropic update?
I mean, I'm a big Claude fan and I'm a big Anthropic fan. It's probably the one I go to more often than not. I go through phases and definitely for different things. And so I'm not totally just hating on Anthropic. I'm just trying to kind of figure out what scenario would I have that thing run for 30 hours? Like I just literally can't even think of that scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, 30 hours of reviewing code sounds like you're just reading a book at that point. I would have rather just start over. I don't know.
And just think if it went wrong on step 1 or 2 of that 30 hours. Think if it went wrong on hour 2 of the 30 hours, and now you've just spent a ton of time. And how does it know right and wrong?
Totally. Yeah. No, if the hallucination starts early, then the whole thing is messed up.
Yeah.
30 hours of hallucinations.
Exactly. I just can't quite think of that. So.
When we get like 2 or 3 prompts away, it's already struggling, let alone 30 hours.
Yeah. I just can't think. I just can't think of that scenario, which I'm like, look, it's not solving world peace. It's not doing the human genome. Like none of that stuff is happening yet. And so it's like, what in the world do you have it doing for 30 hours?
Yeah. Sweet. All right. So I saved this one towards the end because I think we'll probably spend a little bit of time on it. Not the end. We have some more stuff to cover. But this one, OpenDoor has a new CEO. I believe he was Shopify's previous CEO, if I remember correctly. He was he was Shopify's previous CEO. Let me double check that because I think that's right. Where was he previously? He was previous CEO. I just want to figure this out because
So while you're pulling that up here, what we can look at here is so he's come in and he's definitely posted a big company news piece where he's definitely trying to drive AI, right? So this is the latest executive to come in and say, "Hey, look, I got this hammer called AI. I want to go hit something with my hammer called AI." And so he's now telling the whole company they're going to shift to AI first because OpenDoor hasn't been struggling at all over the last 2 or 3 years, right? So now they bring in a new CEO from. Did you find it?
He was the COO of Shopify.
Okay. So they bring in a COO, who obviously that's a whole move in itself. They brought in a COO. So obviously, clearly operations are not, at their best. If you're going to move a COO into your CEO role, that kind of says something there. And then on top of that, he's got this big old hammer called AI, and he's going to solve all of their problems with AI.
And more instead of just kind of it, I think the issue is a little more fundamental than it is specific. I mean, we could specifically go into OpenDoor for quite a while, but it's the whole. If you're opening a Google Doc, use AI, like use Chat GPT. And the thing is, like, it almost looks like this was. I purposely don't think he wrote this email with AI, but it makes me. I don't know. A lot of
You wrote the whole thing with AI. That's
Well,
kind of
because like
funny.
I see the classic Chat GPT hyphens here. Um, how GPT is super hyphen happy. So OpenAI probably reviewed this. Anyways, I he's wanting everybody to default to AI, which it's taking the human thought process away. And we've talked about this a lot, that AI is great for enhancing great employees, but it also becomes a crutch for employees that are substandard and just use it without thinking on their own. Um,
Yeah. There's a
and
reason. There's a recent study released by MIT Media Labs found that 95% of organizations see no measurable return on their investment in technologies for AI. And what it's doing is there's a second study that's come out that says that it's creating something called AI work slop, right? So basically, it creates a whole lot of stuff for people to have to review so that they can then review it, right? And that's it. Is AI generated work slop, and it's killing teamwork and causing multi-million-dollar productivity problems. So, again, this is another CEO coming in saying, we're going to solve all of our problems with AI. Everything has to be AI first.
so he references chat.opendoor.com. Is this a GPT wrapper that's specifically for OpenDoor?
I wouldn't know until I played with it a bunch, and you can usually get these to spit out what their kind of underlying thing is. My guess is yes. But my guess is they just took out and slapped it in, and then they're feeding some things kind of in the side with some of their own data, possibly. I haven't played with it a ton.
And in terms of workplace privacy, if you're using chat.opendoor.com, theoretically, can't OpenDoor see what, because they're signing in with their what looks like an OpenDoor ID, and I'm sure you can just match that with an employee. Can't you see what your employees, how they're using ChatGPT, like how they're using it?
So what people just don't understand is like chat is just a great way for Open Door to now steal everything that you're doing. So everything you do is just going to be cataloged, logged, learned from, to watch by Open Door. So if you're a real estate person and you want to compete with Open Door,
Yeah,
probably not a great idea to go chat with Open Door.
and this is a user the first day or so, the sentiment around this post was like, oh, go get them, like everything's AI, like this is bullish. It took around 48 hours for people that were probably actually working to kind of dive in and say, like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever read. The CEO of a real estate company with a business model that has never had a chance of working is telling employees to become, quote, AI native, as if becoming AI native will somehow make buying houses for too much and selling them for too little profitable business. AI is turning into a buzzword people throw around to feel better about being lazy and doing nothing. If I traded stocks, I'd be backing up the truck to short OpenDoor. And
And
I have
see,
no idea who this user is.
yeah.
He he has almost 6,000 followers. He's a founder of commercial real estate brokerage and property management firm. So this guy probably actually knows real estate. I don't know why they brought in the Shopify COO.
Well, and
And
so the big giveaway is anytime somebody does solve something with AI with a chatbot. As soon as you see the AI just being solved with the chatbot, like that's one of the first like red flags, right? Like there's some use cases where we've used and built some of our own chatbot in very specific ways, but like you said, this just kind of screams open AI wrapper with them stealing their data in the middle. And so like if the chatbot is one of the first things when you take AI and solve a real problem using pattern matching, using data, using a lot of real use cases. Like I work with a lot of my clients and every one of my clients is building on AI right now, but we do not build chatbots for them. Like that is just like one of the dead giveaways to like, I don't know what I'm doing with AI, so let's build a chatbot with it to chat about it.
Yeah.
Like it's almost every time.
And it's a bummer because OpenDoor has a great tech platform. Like I personally purchased a house through OpenDoor, and I didn't need an agent. I clicked through the app. They had like the tech interface was brilliant, and I've heard a lot of really credible real estate people say that OpenDoor has a great tech platform. And very few people know it unless you go through that OpenDoor process. But it was seamless. I closed quickly. I showed the house to myself. I didn't need anybody. I didn't need a buyer's agent. It was fantastic. So OpenDoor has great technology, but like this user says, the CEO of a real estate company, with a business model that I've never had a chance of working, telling employees just to be better, is not going to fix the business.
No.
Now, if he came out with a plan that's like, hey, every deal, for example, if the CEO Kaz said, hey, before we purchase a home, we need to run it through our proprietary analysis tool. Okay, cool. Great. Now he's like, hey, we have a tool that we're using and this is a memo to employees. It's like, great. But he's just basically saying use the chat bot. So
Yeah.
I don't know, just my 2 cents. I think that it was interesting because he's putting himself on the stage in real time to see what a company that's founded that's going to base themselves off chatbots is going to do.
Yep.
So,
and I just think anybody who just goes to chat to be the first thing to say we're AI. And I think it's also because it's a safe play because you can just throw there and be like, well, I can talk to it. And it probably has some little disclaimer every time you ask a question to be like, and so it's a safe bet, I guess.
yeah. I mean, one of the first things he did was like a return to work and the employees threw a fit, which I mean, hey, if you want to find the best people to be in the office, then great, you do that. Like that's not a problem. It's a real estate company. I don't think there should be I think there should be very few exceptions to not being in office. So
I guess the only question I'd ask is, doesn't that geolocate you to just one spot though?
Well, I assume how many employees does OpenDoor have? I think they have tens of thousands.
But even if they do, then on top of that, how are you going to geolocate in areas? Like you still aren't going to be buying in rural then.
But that's not their market. Their market space. They have 1,400 employees.
Okay.
As of 2024.
All in one location?
No, I think they're probably spread out.
Okay. I mean, I would think these guys would be one of the screaming examples of, hey, let's go remote and let's spread across the nation and let's hire strategically anywhere that we need somebody. And I think you could do that really smart. That's what a real COO would do, right? Like to be able to say, look, how do I spider this thing out across and get people down on the ground with boots on the ground as close to these locations as I can?
Well, like this user was saying, like if AI native is somehow making buying houses for too much and selling, as if AI native will make somehow buying houses for too much and selling them for too little a profitable business. Like that's their business model, and that's what they're struggling with. And making employees go to Chat GPT, I don't know. Time will tell, and I guess OpenDoor stock can prove us wrong to see if making employees AI native helps their earnings.
Yep. We'll find out.
So to kind of wrap things up here, when AI native becomes a buzzword, it basically just means do you think that basically means we don't know what we're doing?
Yep.
Or what do you think?
Yeah, it's a non-tech company trying to go tech, trying to throw AI into the mix. And like, I'd be really curious to know how large their software development staff is of those 1,400. I don't think you'd find that number, but
their
I don't know.
Tech platform is great. But the problem is their tech platform is I buy a house and I've never opened the app again. And so it's like, how do you keep
one and done?
Yeah. So Cool. Well, those are the biggest stories that I had. Did you have? I know we had a couple of smaller ones. Did you have one that you really were passionate about that you wanted to hit on?
Nope, I think we're good. It's been it's always fun to get together and talk tech and business and the combination of two, and these have been fun topics to hit on today.
Yeah, no, I think it hasn't been, it's finally a break from $600 billion deals and where's the money come from. So it's been nice to do that. And honestly, I know we kind of came down as a little condescending to this new CEO, but we wish him the best. We want these companies to do well with AI because we don't really want this bubble to burst, and we don't want these companies to just have catastrophic failures. And so if that's the first step in making OpenDoor a great business, we'll see. But we just kind of want to give our perspective on companies that are chatbot first.
Well, and mostly on intelligently. So one of the big things that here at Startup Pack that we do is when we build AI for our clients, we say, what is the problem you're trying to solve? Right. And I think that's what this guy was hitting on is he said, look, what are they trying to solve with this? They didn't start with the problem thesis. And anytime you're going to build real software, you're going to ask, what's the problem I'm solving? Software development is just problem solving. That's all it is. And I've said that for decades, right? And so like if just in this case, even it's like, what problem are you going to solve? So I work with my clients all the time and say, hey, what problem are you trying to solve? Great. Where does AI possibly fit into that? Or where does just a standard query do? I get people that meet with me all the time looking for me to start new projects. And they're like, hey, we want to get AI. And I'm like, to solve what? And that's always my first question is like, you don't just deploy AI just to deploy AI.
Yeah. It's going to make the good companies great, and the struggling companies struggle more. It's just the great divide. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Startup Pack and I go live every Tuesday morning where we talk all business, tech, finance, everything commingled into one. Yes, this is my father, and we enjoy doing this. We do this at home at 11:30 at night, and so it's fun to kind of do this on air and to look back at what we've learned and how the tech industry has progressed going forward. So Startup Pack, if people want to come learn more about coding or custom software solutions, where do they go?
Check out startuppack.com/Spencer. We love to build software for companies, and I always love to work with companies to help them make great decisions, around software.
Fantastic. All right, guys, if you haven't yet, consider subscribing. Join us every Tuesday morning. And hey, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.
See you guys later.